Week 5 power rankings are here. No intro. We're going to jump right into it. The number 10 team that is brand new to this week in my power rankings is the Washington Commanders. They are currently 3-1. They just won against the Arizona Cardinals a couple days ago, 42-14, in complete smackdown against the Cardinals. And yeah, their offense is definitely one of the best in the league right now. You know, it's crazy to even say that, but they're playing really good. Jaden Daniels went 26 for 30, 233 yards, a touchdown, and interception. His completion percentage has been crazy. He was breaking all kinds of records through the first 4 games when it comes to completion percentage. I think every game this year is over 80%. And guys, that is super hard. I don't care if you're throwing 15. You know, he threw 30 attempts and he's over 80%. That's just insane to do to NFL. Looking at the run game, Brian Robertson Jr. had a really good game, 21 carries for 101 yards and a touchdown. Also, Jaden Daniels also had a rushing touchdown. So Jaden Daniels is having a really good season so far. And it's only 4 games and they played weaker defenses as of right now. Besides the week 1, you know, defense, well, when it came to the Buccaneers in week 1, that was a completely different story. But the last 3 weeks, their offense has been killing it. So far, they scored 121 points. That is the 3rd most in NFL right now, just behind the Bills and the Saints. But yeah, their defense is definitely the biggest question mark. They are ranked 31st in the league as in the overall defense, but their offense is a top 10 unit overall. Their offensive line is doing really good. I am really shocked by the Commanders team right now. They're my number 10 team. The number 9 team who came back on this list this week, they were on my list for the first 2 weeks, is the Baltimore Ravens. They are 2-2. The Ravens put a complete smackdown on the Buffalo Bills, coming in hot into Baltimore. The Bills were just playing complete lights out ball, and like I said, that was completely shut down from the get-go. Lamar Jackson went 13 for 18, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. He only got sacked 1 time. But, you know, Lamar Jackson always doesn't pass the ball that much. We already know that. He's mainly literally 20 to 22 times per game he only passes. So that's completely normal for Lamar Jackson. This running game was insane with Derrick Henry. 24 carries for 199 yards. That is definitely the player of the week, at least in my prediction. Also a touchdown. Lamar Jackson also had a rushing touchdown. Like I said, this freaking Bills defense had no chance against the Ravens. Only reason why I have them as my number 9 team is because, you know, they're 2-2 and there's a couple other teams that are 3-1 and now on this list. But I just think that beating the Cowboys in Dallas was a huge thing. I think that, you know, of course, playing against the Buffalo Bills, who are a very good team, and completely smacking them, I think they deserve to be a little bit higher than the Commanders. You know, I like the Commanders doing this year so far, but I think the Ravens deserve to be back in his top 10. The first 2 weeks were different because they looked a little shaky, especially against the Raiders, but I think they came back to life here. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're back in my top 10. The number 8 team, who is staying in the exact same spot from last week, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just lost to the Indianapolis Colts 24-27, a really close game. But yeah, they're currently 3-1. This was probably one of Justin Fields' best games right here. 22 for 34, 312 yards and a touchdown. He also had 55 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So Justin Fields had a really good game, but just when it came to the defense today, they've been very good so far in the first 3 games this year. But whenever they just played the Colts right here, they just really couldn't hold together. Looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers receiving yards, George Pickens had 113 yards on 7 receptions. Pat Freiermuth had 57 yards on a touchdown, and Najee Harris, which is actually pretty weird for him, you know, 54 yards with 3 attempts. Or I'm sorry, 3 catches. I know that the Steelers just lost. You know, they lost against the Colts, who had Anthony Richardson coming out in the first or the second quarter. But they're still, of course, a really good team. The world's not ending for them yet. But like I said, like, you know, it does like they're not going to be undefeated this year. But, you know, no one's going to be undefeated this year. It's just so hard to do that. The Steelers have nothing to really worry about right now, and there was no major injury. Actually, I'm just sorry. I was looking at my sheet. Cordell Patterson is hurt. In the rest of the video, I do want to say real quick, I'll be naming the main injuries that happened currently this week. just to kind of give a recap, the other two teams did not have an injury. Cordell Patterson, he's probably week to week, it looks like, with his ankle injury. But yeah, now enough with the Steelers. Going on to number 17. The number 17, the team that went up 2 spots, even though they just freaking lost. The Seattle Seahawks are my number 17. And the only reason why they went up is because they actually played an okay game against the Detroit Lions, which is a really hard team, at their house. But also the Saints and the Eagles completely got booted off my list. So if you're an Eagles or a Saints fan, I'm sorry, but that's the reason why the Seahawks are number 7 and they went up. Geno Smith went 38 for 56, 395 yards and a touchdown. Also threw an interception, got sacked 3 times. But it makes sense that he had a lot of pass completions and pass attempts because this team was trailing like 14-0 in the second quarter or something like that. And so they're basically trailing the whole entire game. They had to come back and try to come back. But they put up 29 points against a good Detroit Lions defense. 42 points they've given up, which is definitely no bueno. But yeah, I mean, they're playing against a really good team, so it is what it is. I do want to mention Kenneth Walker. He had 12 carries for 80 yards and also 3 touchdowns. And there was this one player where like he was getting tackled, but then he ended up landing on the player and then freaking rolling back over. I've never seen anything like that happen in NFL, so I thought, you know, I'm pretty sure there's a clip out there on YouTube somewhere. I can't show it because of copyright issues. That's why I don't show videos of my videos. But yeah, like I said, I thought that was an insane thing. I've never seen that ever, and I do want to give him a shout out. Also, brand new to my list this week that used to be on the list before is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on my number 6 team. They are currently 3-1. They just put up a smacking against the Eagles. Baker Mayfield had a really good game, 30 for 47, 347 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a rushing touchdown. You know, like I was watching the score in this game. I wasn't watching it in person or anything like that, but it just felt like it was 21 or 28-3 in halftime, or it was something like that, 28-7. This was just a complete blowout from the get-go. And the Eagles also had 2 points from a a blocked field goal attempt or a blocked PAT attempt, so they really didn't do that much. But yeah, I mean, the Buccaneers just completely bam, 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 just like they always do. Mike Evans was their leading receiver with 94 yards and a touchdown. Of course, you know, he's always the leading receiver. Chris Godwin had a nice little game with 69 yards. Nice. And Cade Otton had 52 yards or tight end. And like I said, the Bucs have looked really weird last week against the Broncos. That didn't make any freaking sense. But they came back this week, you know, staying at home, putting up a smack against the Eagles. The Buccaneers offense has been really good this year so far. Their defense was a little questionable in the first couple of weeks, but their offense is still really good with Baker Mayfield. They are my number 6 team. My number 5 team, who dropped down 1 spot from last week, is the Houston Texans. They just beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 24-20 in a very good game. CJ Stroud definitely had a better game here, 27 for 40, 345 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no picks compared to last week when he did absolutely nothing against the Minnesota Vikings. And they had a little bit better of a running attack with Cam Akers. He had a couple more yards than last week against the Vikings. I mean, it was complete night and day difference from the last week game. The player of the game was definitely Nico Collins with 151 receiving yards, a touchdown on 12 catches. Stephon Diggs had a nice little game with 69 yards. Nice. Again, you know, this receiving team is a pretty good. Nico Collins is a dog. I've been saying that for a while now. And I still think the Texans are, of course, a really good team because they're my number 5 team. But I just think they needed to drop down 1 spot because they put up a good game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but it came literally right down to the last second. And the Jacksonville Jaguars have looked completely no bueno this year so far. You know, their Jacksonville are, of course, 0-4. But hey, a division win is a division win. That's the biggest thing in the NFL. But yeah, they're my number 5 team. A team we just talked about not too long ago, the number 4 team that dropped down 2 spots, the Buffalo Bills. Now, of course, I still think the Buffalo Bills are a really good team. But yeah, last week against the Ravens was not their game. Josh Allen went 16 for 29, 180 yards on the ground. In the passing. 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Mitchell Trubisky came in for a couple of plays. I don't know exactly why, but I do think that it was probably because it was just garbage time. But the Bills just could get absolutely nothing going on in that game. You know, of course, they only scored 10 points. And the Ravens offense was just running all over the damn field with time possession. So yeah, that's the reason why they had no points. Khalil Shakir had 4 catches for 62 yards. Keon Coleman had 51 yards on 3 catches. And the receiving, like again, they didn't really have a lot of good things happen for the game, for the Bills this week, because of course he just got completely blown up by the Ravens. But I do want to say Khalil Shakir came out of the game early. You know, I think he's week to week so far. When it comes to his knee injury, I'm looking, it's actually his ankle injury, I'm sorry, but that was one of the major injuries they suffered in that loss against the Ravens. Again, the Bills are a great team. They're going to be in the top 10 for sure all year. It was just a fluke game, I think, at least in my opinion. They played a really good team in the Ravens, and yeah, so don't take anything personal, Bills fans. The team that went 2 spots up is the Detroit Lions. They are my number 3 team. They beat the Seattle Seahawks, who were undefeated at the time, 42-29, in a very good game. Jared Goff was absolutely perfect. 18 for 18, 292 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did get sacked 3 times, but whenever you have a 100% completion percentage with over 15 attempts, like I was just talking about with Jaden Daniels earlier, having over 80% is really hard in an NFL game. He had no incompletions. Like, come on, dude. Of course, it's the Lions. Just my luck to Packers fans' luck. Oof. Jameson Williams had 2 catches for 80 yards, that 70-yard touchdown. Sam Laporta had a nice little game with 53 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown also had a touchdown. It was a complete dominating game against the Lions, or against the Seahawks, with their with the aspect of the offense. But the defense struggled just a little bit. They gave up a lot of yards. You know, again, most of them are kind of chump yards because they're trying to come back late in the fourth quarter. But again, the Lions deserve to go up because they just beat an undefeated team, literally 3-0. And whenever you beat an undefeated team at home, putting up 42 points, you know, the Lions offense has looked a couple of weeks shaky, but this week was a complete different game from what they shown early in the season. And it's only week 4, so anything can still happen with any other team. But yeah, the Lions are my number 3 team. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate here, but you know what? I'm going to stick with my word. I'm going to talk about what I said in my last 4 videos. The Chiefs are going to be number 1 until proven otherwise. So the Minnesota Vikings are my number 2 team. Let me know down in the comments if you think that is a complete weird take. Let me know in the comments because I think it's funny. So speaking of the Vikings, they won against the Packers 31-29. We all know they had a 28-7 lead in halftime. They were just completely smacking around the Packers like they're just freaking Boldy cheese or whatever. It was just so embarrassing as a Packer fans, but I have to admit it. Sam Darnold went 20 for 28, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception. He had a really good game. This offense was completely humming in the first half. They had like barely any incomplete passes. You know, they had no interceptions, of course. This team was just completely killing it in the first half. In the second half, they did stall a lot, but I think that was due to just them blowing out and trying to, like, you know, continue the game, not do too much. So I think that's what happened there. Justin Jefferson had 85 yards, a touchdown. Jordan Addison also had a touchdown in his receiving game. I think that the receivers did pretty good in this game. They didn't really have a lot of drop balls. Aaron Jones also had 46 yards catching, 90-something yards on the ground. So I think he had a really good reunion game. He did not get a touchdown, though, so that's nice for us Packer fans. But like I said, the Vikings are 4-0. They completely smacked over 3 straight teams, the 49ers, the Texans, and the Packers. They deserve to be at least number 2. And a lot of people probably have them as number 1, and I completely get that. But again, like I was just saying a couple minutes ago, the Chiefs are number 1 until proven otherwise. Now, speaking of the Chiefs, they're also 4-0, and like I just literally saying a second ago, they're going to be proven otherwise if they're not going to be number 1 or whatever. But Patrick Mahomes has not been looking too good this year. He went 19 for 29 this game against the Chargers, 245 yards, a touchdown, and another pick. He has been throwing a lot of picks this year, it feels like. And but again, you know, it's like whenever he does bad, the rest of the team does absolutely amazing. And they beat the Chargers team on the road. And, you know, a division game is a division game. I know the Chargers were also a little banged up, but now the Chiefs are definitely banged up. It's looking like Rashee Rice is going to be out for at least a few weeks guaranteed. I think they might be thinking it's a torn ACL, but it's not confirmed yet. But if it's an actual torn ACL, they got Hollywood Brown, they got Isaiah Pacheco out for at least a few more weeks. Now they're going to have Rashee Rice, their literally best player on their offense right now, Ooh, wee, man, this Chiefs gonna be screwed. But Travis Kelce had a nice little comeback game, 89 yards on 7 catches. He's been quiet all year so far, but Xavier Worthy had 73 yards and a touchdown. You know, again, this Rashee Rice thing that, you know, that just happened, like I just said, it's gonna be a complete game changer. We're gonna see how they look next week, but they're going to be number one until proven otherwise. Like I keep saying it over and over and over again. So I kind of want to reiterate that. But yeah, that's that. But that wraps up this video. If you do like it, hit that like button, comment down below your biggest reaction, your biggest take, what you agree on, what you don't agree on, whatever. But I'm out here. Deuces.